which was why I hadn't heard about it before Molloy told me. No journalists waiting at the gates of the prison. No appalled public outcry that this monster should now be on the loose again, free to walk among ordinary decent citizens, to prey on other vulnerable women. Nothing. My sister's killer had been released, quietly, free to return to the UK, which, according to Molloy, was what he had done, and where he intended to remain. Faye's death was old news, yesterday's chip paper, replaced by even more salacious stories of sexual predation, depravity and violence. A murder trial in Dublin had been dominating all available front-page space for weeks. I understood that Kirby had to be released eventually. Of course I did. I'm a lawyer. He had served more than 9 years of his 10-year sentence, longer than average for manslaughter, which is exactly what I would have told a client if I'd been asked. But when it's personal, it's different. A realisation that had hit me during the trial, and his release had brought back sickening memories, which had only ever been just below the surface. I sipped at the coffee on my desk. It was cold and bitter, and utterly disgusting. But my throat was dry, so I drank it. My throat went dry whenever I thought about Luke Kirby, although I was trying not to let that happen too often anymore. It was a precarious peace of mind that I had reached, but a peace nonetheless. I heard a cry of frustration from downstairs, not the first I'd heard this morning. Leah, like myself, was buried under a mountain of paperwork, probably more so since she was the one who had to type everything up. She didn't have to deal with the phone this morning, at least, but that was merely temporary. We had closed the office to the public for a few hours to clear some of the backlog. I flipped open my dictaphone to extract the tape, grabbed the stack of files I'd been working on, and headed downstairs, approaching the reception desk with trepidation. Leah looked up at the sound of my footsteps, glaring at me over a mountain of files and stopping me in my tracks. The tape I'd completed remained between my teeth, the files I was carrying close to toppling. "Please don't give me anything else until I finish this lot," she pleaded. "There's no room apart from anything else." She was right. I had no idea how she was going to manage to extricate herself when she needed to, without mixing everything up. I staggered through the door of the waiting room, dumped the files I was carrying on one of the chairs, and spat out the tape. "Okay," I said slowly, glancing with concern at the list I'd placed on top of the files. She caught my look and sighed. "At least go through that lot and let me know what you absolutely need done today. I'll do my best." "Agreed," I said before she could change her mind. I looked at the clock above the reception desk. It was 5-1. "Come on, let's leave this lot for half an hour and get some lunch." My right foot slid from under me when I stepped out onto the footpath, and I'd have landed firmly on my backside if it weren't for Leah's quick reflexes. She grabbed hold of my elbow and set me back on my feet with a laugh. "Cripes, thanks for that," I said, reaching for the wall of the office and pulling my hand back the second I touched its icy surface. I looked down. The pavement was glistening with tiny patches of white. "We'd better get some salt on there before this afternoon, or we're going to have a load of claims on our hands on top of everything else. It wasn't like that this morning, was it?" "No, it's definitely getting colder," Leah agreed. "Highland Radio is predicting snow for the weekend." "Really? A white Christmas, do you reckon?" I breathed in. The air tasted of mint. I had a flashback to my earlier daydream, which I shook off. She grinned. "Hopefully." I picked my way up the hill with carefully tentative steps. It certainly looked as if snow was a possibility. There was an icy stillness to the air, and the pale sky seemed far too low, as if a false base had been slipped beneath the real thing, lending a claustrophobic, oppressive feel to the day. I had a brief, inexplicable sense of foreboding, but it dissipated as soon as we turned the corner onto the square and were hit with a blast of Jingle Bell Rock from the speakers that had been set up beside the tree.